Hello, everyone. Today we continue our journey with the tarot, and we're looking at this from many different angles. We're looking a little bit at the tarot as it was used in game playing. We're looking at tarot as it appeared in the 1400s in Italy, and kind of look at the journey of tarot and how in the 1700s, suddenly with the writings of Court de Gebelin, in his Le Monde Primitif, writing on the tarot as a survival of ancient Egyptian wisdom, and the 22 trump cards being associated with the universal alphabet. And we have Aliette writing about cartomancy and divination with tarot. And then, of course, we have Eliphas Levi in the 1850s writing about the tarot and the Hebrew letters and the Kabbalah. And then we have the French school with Papus, Gerard Uncas with his Tarot of the Bohemians. And those that follow the line of thinking that the Fool is actually the Hebrew letter Shin, and that the Magician would be Aleph, and all of that. So a totally different way of attributing the Hebrew letters. And then we have the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and the cipher manuscripts, and then the correcting of the tarot, the quote-unquote correcting the tarot, where the Fool is associated with Aleph and the Magician with Bait. And then, of course, we have the Rider-Waite-Smith deck of Arthur Edward Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith, and the pictorial key to the tarot. And he actually there's some Golden Dawn associations, and then there's also some things borrowed from Eliphas Levi. And then also you see pictorial things on the actual minor arcana cards, which some of it could possibly be drawn from the Solabusca deck from the Renaissance. And then, of course, you have the association of the 10 pip cards. So the numbers 1 through 10 of the 4 suits could be associated with the 10 Sephiroth and the 4 Kabbalistic worlds, and the 10 Sephiroth and the 4 elements, such as that the 6 of Swords could be associated with Tiferet of the element of air, or the 6 of Discs could be associated with Tiferet of the element of earth. So we have kind of a Kabbalistic language system that this evolves into, where we basically have the 22 Hebrew letters with its divisions taken right out of the Sefer Yetzirah. Well, the divisions, the types. We have the 3 mother letters of Aleph, Mem, and Shin. And then we have the 7 double letters associated with the planets, associated with Beit and Kaf and Gimel and Dalet and all of that. Pei. So associated with all the double letters, and then we have the 12 simple letters associated with the zodiac. And then, of course, we could associate these with the 22 trumps. Now, there are all very many different ways to look at this. And there are also people that work with the tarot from more of like a classical, like a psychological perspective, like the Fool's Journey, looking at this through like Jungian archetypes, or people look at it from a totally different angle of look at the Fool and then look at the wise man or the wizard or the magician. Okay, we have these 2 opposing figures. And then we have the wise man or the magician, and then we have the priestess. So there's so many different ways that these can be looked at. Some people look at these more as like Jungian archetypes, and where we can kind of use these as psychological tools. Some people use them in lodge magic. We have the builders of the Adytum and Paul Foster Case. And here I am, just a fellow student, And we're worked through all of this together. This is basically the ABCs of occultism. But trying to avoid just sticking with any one's particular tradition. Let's look at this as it was, looked at throughout the centuries. Let's look at how it evolved. And whatever the history may be of the tarot, how can we use it as a tool for self-transformation? But look at this beyond any one tradition and just look at the history of the cards itself. So, and looking at different perspectives, also today, I wanted to continue the readings. So we're gonna go deeper into all of this, but today we're gonna continue our readings. So today we're looking at a little bit of a different perspective, unrelated to a lot of this other stuff. Lately we've been looking at Manly Palmer Hall. Okay, and he seems to have a different perspective on some things with the tarot cards. So, not many people talk about what Manly Palmer Hall had to say about the tarot, or Manly P. Hall, Many people read, they look at different versions and everything, and, but yeah, what I'm talking about should not be associated, with any one, I'm just trying to look at the history of tarot in general and kind of how it could be used in different traditions. So, we're going to continue a little bit. We get some of these daily readings in. And of course, I'm going to, this is just an excerpt. I'm going to provide an Amazon link for those that want to purchase the book, Secret Teachings of All Ages. It's one of those occult classics, The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. And this is actually part 2 because I had already begun the readings. So anyways, here we go. Now lately I've been doing this stuff on Instagram, but today I figured I'd go ahead and hop back on with Facebook Live. And anyway, so here we go. We're going to continue right where I left off. Kind of in the middle of a chapter. I know it's a little disorienting with this one part, but plus my ranting and raving, but we're going to do it. This is part 2. With rare insight, Court de Geblin assigned the 0 card to Ainsulf, the unknowable first cause. As the central panel of the Bimbing table represents the creative power surrounded by 7 triads of manifesting divinities, so may the 0 card represent that eternal power of which the 21 surrounding or manifesting aspects are but limited expressions. If the 21 major trumps be considered as limited forms existing in the abstract substance of the 0 card, or Ainsulf, the 0 card, it then becomes their common denominator. Which letter then of the Hebrew alphabet is the origin of all the remaining letters? The answer is apparent, Yod. In the presence of so many speculations, one more may not offend. The 0 card, Lemat, the full, has been likened to the material universe, because the mortal sphere is the world of unreality, or foolishness, unreality. The lower universe, like the mortal body of man, is but a garment, a motley costume, well likened to cap and bells. Beneath the garments of the full is the divine substance, however, of which the jester is but a shadow. This world is a Mardi Gras, a pageantry of divine sparks masked in the garb of fools. Was not the 0 card the fool placed in the tarot deck to deceive all who could not pierce the veil of illusion? The tarot cards were entrusted by the illumined hierophants of the mysteries into the keeping of the foolish and the ignorant, thus becoming playthings, in many instances even instruments of vice. Man's evil habits, therefore, actually became the unconscious perpetrators of his philosophical precepts. Quote, "We must admire the wisdom of the initiates," writes Pappus, who utilized vice and made it produce more beneficial results than virtue." Unquote. Does not this act of the ancient priests itself afford proof that the entire mystery of the tarot is wrapped up in the symbolism of the zero card? If knowledge was thus entrusted to fools, could it not be sought for in this card? If Lamont be placed before the first card of the tarot deck, and the others laid out in a horizontal line in sequence from left to right, it will be found that the fool is walking towards the other trumps as though about to pass through the various cards, like the fool's journey. Like the spiritually hoodwinked and bound neophyte, Lamont is about to enter upon the supreme adventure, that of passage through the gates of the divine wisdom. If the zero card be considered as extraneous to the major trumps, this destroys the numerical analogy between these cards and the Hebrew letters by leaving one letter without a tarot correspondent. In this event, it will be necessary to assign the missing letter to a hypothetical tarot card called the Elements, assumed to have been broken up to form the 56 cards of the minor trumps. It is possible that each of the major trumps may be subject to a similar division. The first numbered major trump is called Le Bateleur, the juggler, and according to Court de Geblin, indicates the entire fabric of creation to be but a dream, existence a juggling of divine elements, and life a perpetual game of hazard. The seeming miracles of nature are but feats of cosmic legerdemain. Man is like the little ball in the hands of the juggler, who waves his wand, and presto, the ball vanishes. The world looking on does not realize that the vanished article is still cleverly concealed by the juggler in the hollow of his hand. This is also the adept, whom Omar Khayyam calls the master of the show. His message is that the wise direct the phenomena of nature and are never deceived thereby. The magician stands behind a table on which are spread out a number of objects, prominent among them a cup, the Holy Grail, and the cup placed by Joseph in Benjamin's sack, a coin, the tribute money and the wages of a master builder, and a sword, that of Goliath, and also the mystic blade of the philosopher who divides the false from the true. The magician's hat is in the form of the cosmic lemniscate, signifying the first motion of creation. His right hand points to the earth, his left holds aloft the rod of Jacob, and also the staff that budded, the human spine crowned with the globe of creative intelligence. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the magician wears a uraeus or golden band around his forehead. The table before him is in the form of a perfect cube. His girdle is the serpent of eternity devouring its own tail. The second numbered trump is called La Papesse, the female pope, and has been associated with the curious legend of the only woman who has ever sat in the pontifical chair. Pope Joan is supposed to have accomplished this by masquerading in Malta attire, and was stoned to death when her subterfuge was discovered. This card portrays a seated woman crowned with a tiara surmounted by a lunar crescent. In her lap is the Torah, the book of the law, usually partly closed, and her left hand are the keys to the secret doctrine, one gold and the other silver. Behind her rise two pillars, Joachim and Boaz, with a multicolored veil stretched between. Her throne stands upon a checkerboard floor. A figure called Juno is occasionally substituted for La Papesse. Like the female hierophant of the mysteries of Kibele, this symbolic figure personifies the Shekinah, or divine wisdom. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the priestess is veiled, a reminder that the full countenance truth is not revealed to uninitiated man. A veil also covers one half of her book, thus intimating that but one half of the mystery of being can be comprehended. The third numbered major trump is called L'Imperatrice, the Empress, and has been likened to the woman clothed with the sun, described in the Apocalypse or Revelations. On this card appears the winged figure of a woman seated upon a throne, supported with her right hand a shield emblazoned with a phoenix, and holding in her left a scepter surmounted by an orb of trifoliate flower. Beneath her left foot is sometimes shown the crescent. Either the Empress is crowned or her head is surrounded by a diadem of stars, sometimes both. She is called Generation, and this is numbered 3, Generation, and represents the threefold spiritual world out of which proceeds the fourfold material world. To the graduate of the College of the Mysteries, she is the alma mater, out of whose body the initiate has been born again. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the Empress is shown seated upon a cube, filled with eyes, and a bird is balanced upon the forefinger other left hand. The upper part of her body is surrounded by a radiant golden nimbus, being emblematic of the power from which emanates the entire tangible universe. The Empress is frequently symbolized as pregnant. Dang, those dogs are barking. All right. Y'all enjoying these readings, y'all? Here we go. The fourth numbered major trump is called the Emperor, and its numerical value is directly associated with the great deity revered by the Pythagoreans under the form of the tetrad. His symbols declare the Emperor to be the demiurge, the great king of the inferior world. The Emperor is dressed in armor, and his throne is a cube stone, upon which a phoenix is also clearly visible. The king has his legs crossed in a most significant manner, and carries either a scepter surmounted by an orb or a scepter in his right hand, and an orb in his left hand. The orb itself is evidence that he is supreme ruler of the world. Upon his right and left breast respectively appear the symbols of the sun and moon, which in symbolism are referred to as the eyes of the great king. The position of the body and legs forms the symbol of sulfur, the sign of the ancient alchemical monarch. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the figure is in profile. He wears a Masonic apron, and the skirt forms a right-angled triangle. Upon his head is the crown of the north, and his forehead is adorned with the coiled uraeus. All right. So it's good to get like different opinions and hear different views. So this is a little different. This is what Manly P. Hall is saying. All right. The fifth numbered major trump is called Le Pape, the Pope, and represents the high priest of a pagan or Christian mystery school. In this card, the Hierophant wears the tiara and carries in his left hand the triple cross surmounting the globe of the world. His right hand, bearing upon its back the stigmata, makes the ecclesiastical sign of esotericism, and before him kneel 2 suppliants or acolytes. The back of the papal throne is in the form of a celestial and a terrestrial column. This card signifies the initiate or master of the mystery of life, and according to the Pythagoreans, the spiritual physician. The illusionary universe in the form of the 2 figures, polarity, kneels before the throne upon which sits the initiate who has elevated his consciousness to the plane of spiritual understanding and reality. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the master wears the uraeus, a white and a black figure. Life and death, light and dark, good and evil kneel before him. Do y'all know what he's talking about, the pseudo-Egyptian tarot? Is he talking about like from Court to Gebelin or... Anyways, if anybody knows what he's referring to there, in the comments. Um, a white and a black figure, the left and death, light and darkness, good and evil, kneel before him. The initiate's mastery over unreality is indicated by the tiara and the triple cross, emblems of rulership over the three worlds which have issued from the unknowable first cause. The sixth numbered major trump is called the Lovers. There are two distinct forms of this tarot. One shows a marriage ceremony in which a priest is uniting a youth and a maiden, Adam and Eve, in holy wedlock. Sometimes a winged figure above transfixes the lovers with his dart. The second form of the card portrays a youth with a female figure on either side. On these figures wears a golden crown and is winged, while the other is attired in the flowing robes of the Bacchante, and on her head is a wreath of vine leaves. The maidens represent the twofold soul of man, spiritual and animal. The first his guardian angel, and the second his ever-present demon. The youth stands at the beginning of mature life, parting of the ways, where he must choose between virtue and vice, the eternal and the temporal. Above is a halo of light, the genius of fate, his star, mistaken for Cupid by the uninformed. If youth chooses unwisely, the arrow of blindfolded fate will transfix him. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the arrow of the genius points directly to the figure of vice, thereby signifying that the end of her path is destruction. This card reminds man that the price of free will, or more correctly, the power of choice, is responsibility. The seventh numbered major trump is called the Chariot, and portrays a victorious warrior crowned and riding in a chariot drawn by black and white sphinxes or horses. The starry canopy of the chariot is upheld by 4 columns. This card signifies the exalted one who rides in the chariot of creation. The vehicle of the solar energy, being numbered 7, reveals the arcane truth that 7 planets are the chariots of the solar power which rides victorious in their midst. The 4 columns supporting the canopy represent the 4 mighty ones who uphold the worlds, represented by the star-strewn drapery. The figure carries the scepter of the solar energy, and its shoulders are ornamented with lunar crescents, the Urim and the Thummim. The sphinxes drawing the chariot present the secret and unknown power by which the victorious ruler is moved continuously through the various parts of his universe. In certain tarot decks, the victor signifies the regenerated man, for the body of the chariot is a cubic stone. The man in armor is not standing in the chariot, but is rising out of the cube, thus typifying the ascension of the 3 out of the 4, the turning upward of the flap of the master mason's apron. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the warrior carries the curved sword of Luna, is bearded to signify maturity, and wears the collar of the planetary orbits. His scepter, emblematic of the threefold universe, is crowned with the square upon which is a circle surmounted by a triangle. The eighth numbered major trump is called La Justice, justice, and portrays a seated figure upon a throne, the back of which rises in the form of 2 columns. Justice is crowned and carries in her right hand a sword, and in her left a pair of scales. This card is a reminder of the judgment of the soul in the hall of Osiris. It teaches that the only balanced forces can endure, and that eternal justice destroys with the sword that which is unbalanced. Sometimes justice is depicted with the braid of her own hair twisted around her neck, in a manner resembling a hangman's knot. This may subtly imply that man is the cause of his own undoing, his actions, symbolized by his hair, being the instrument of his annihilation. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the figure of justice is raised upon a dice of 3 steps, for justice can be fully administered only by such as who have elevated to the third degree. Justice is blindfolded, that the visible shall in no way influence its decision. For reasons he considers beyond his reader's intelligence, Mr. Waite reversed the 8th and 11th major trumps. The 9th numbered major trump is called the Hermit and portrays an aged man robed in a monkish habit and cowl, leaning on a staff. Well, the reason that they were switched is because, like, going up the tree of life, like, you would switch the, what do you call it? Lamed and, I hate when my mind drifts when I'm doing, switching justice with, was Leo, Libra and Leo. So, switch from 11 to 8. Alright, so, but he says here, for reasons he considers beyond his reader's intelligence, Mr. Waite reversed the 8th and 11th major trumps. The 9th numbered major trump is called the Hermit, and portrays an aged man, robed in a monkish habit and cowl, leaning on a staff. This card was popularly supposed to represent Diogenes in his quest for an honest man. In his right hand the recluse carries a lamp, which he partly conceals within the folds of his cape. The hermit thereby personifies the secret organizations, which for uncounted centuries have carefully concealed the light of the ancient wisdom from the profane. The staff of the hermit is knowledge, which is man's main and only enduring support. Sometimes the mystic rod is divided by knobs into 7 sections, a subtle reference to the mystery of the 7 sacred centers along the human spine. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the hermit shields the lamp behind a rectangular cape to emphasize the philosophic truth that wisdom, if exposed to the fury of ignorance, would be destroyed like the tiny flame of a lamp unprotected from the storm. Man's bodies form a cloak through which his divine nature is faintly visible, like the flame of the partly covered lantern. Through renunciation, the hermetic life, man attains depth of character and tranquility of spirit. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. The 10th numbered major trump is called the Wheel of Fortune, and portrays a mysterious wheel with 8 spokes, the familiar Buddhist symbol of the cycle of necessity. To its rim cling Anubis and Typhon, the principles of good and evil. Above sits the immobile Sphinx, carrying the sword of justice and signifying the perfect equilibrium of universal wisdom. Anubis is shown rising and Typhon descending, but when Typhon reaches the bottom, evil ascends again, and when Anubis reaches the top, good wanes once more. The Wheel of Fortune represents the lower universe as a whole, with divine wisdom, the Sphinx, as the eternal arbiter between good and evil. In India, the chakra or the wheel, the chakra or the wheel is associated with the life centers, either of a world or of an individual. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the Sphinx is armed with a javelin, and Typhon is being thrown from the wheel. The vertical columns supporting the wheel, and so placed that but one is visible, represent the axis of the world with the inscrutable Sphinx upon its northern pole. Pole's the axis of the world. Sometimes the wheel with its supports is in a boat upon the water. The water is the ocean of illusion, which is the sole foundation of the cycle of necessity. The 11th numbered major trump is called Strength, La Force, or Strength, and portrays a girl wearing a hat in the form of a lemniscate, with her hands upon the mouth of an apparently ferocious lion. Considerable controversy exists as to whether the maid is closing or opening the lion's mouth. Most writers declare her to be closing the jaws of the beast, but a critical inspection conveys the opposite impression. The young woman symbolizes spiritual strength, and the lion, either the animal world which the girl is mastering, or the secret wisdom over which she is the mistress. By the way, you see the woman and the lion even in like the early like Visconti decks from the 15th century. You see the woman and the lion. Anyways, so most okay, the 11th numbered major trump is called La Force, strength, and portrays a girl wearing a hat in the form of a lemniscate, with her hands upon the mouth of an apparently ferocious lion. Considerable controversy exists as to whether the maid is closing or opening the lion's mouth. Most writers declare her to be closing the jaws of the beast, but a critical inspection conveys the opposite impression. The young woman symbolizes spiritual strength, and the lion either the animal world which the girl is mastering, or the secret wisdom over which she is mistress. The lion also signifies the summer solstice and the girl Virgo. For when the sun enters this constellation, the virgin robs the lion of his strength. King Solomon's throne was ornamented with lions, and he himself was likened to the king of beasts with the key of wisdom between his teeth. In this sense, the girl may be opening the lion's mouth to find the key contained therein, for courage is a prerequisite to the attainment of knowledge. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the symbolism is the same, except that the maiden is represented as a priestess wearing an elaborate crown in the form of a bird surmounted by serpents and an ibis. The 12th numbered major trump is called Le Pendu, the hanged man, and portrays a young man hanging by his left foot from an horizontal beam, the latter supported by 2 tree trunks, from each of which 6 branches have been removed. The right leg of the youth is crossed in back of the left, and his arms are folded behind his back in such a way as to form a cross surmounting a downward pointed triangle. The figure thus forms an inverted symbol of sulfur, and according to Levy signifies the accomplishment of the magnum opus. In some decks, the figure carries under each arm a money bag from which coins are escaping. Popular tradition associates this card with Judas Iscariot, who is said to have gone forth and hanged himself, the money bags representing the payment he received for his crime. Levy likens the hanged man to Prometheus. Interesting. I had forgotten. It's been a while since I had read that. That's another thing to work through. That's one of those classics, you know. Dogma and Ritual of High Magic by Eliphas Levi. And like I said, he gives a totally different Hebrew letter attribution. But I just think it's cool to like look at all different sides and just to understand, you know, the evolution of tarot and its understanding. And anyways, but back to this, I'd forgotten that. That's cool. Check this out. So where was I? That's right. So Levi, this is pretty interesting. Eliphas Levi likens the hanged man to Prometheus, the eternal sufferer, further declaring that the upturned feet signify the spiritualization of the lower nature. It is also possible that the inverted figure denotes the loss of the spiritual faculties, for the head is below the level of the body. The stumps of the 12 branches are the signs of the zodiac, divided into 2 groups, positive and negative. The picture, therefore, depicts the polarity temporarily triumphant over the spiritual principle of equilibrium. To attain the heights of philosophy, therefore, man must reverse or invert the order of his life. I want to read that again. To attain the heights of philosophy, therefore, man must reverse or invert the order of his life. He then loses his sense of personal possession because he renounces the rule of gold in favor of the golden rule. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the hanged man is suspended between two palm trees and signifies the sun god, who dies perennially for his world. The 13 numbered major trumps is called la mort, death. So the 13th numbered major trump is called la mort, death, and portrayed a reaping skeleton with a great scythe cutting off the heads, hands, and feet rising out of the earth about it. In the course of its labors, the skeleton has apparently cut off one of its own feet. Not all tarot decks show this peculiarity, but this point well emphasizes the philosophic truth that the unbalanced and destructive are synonymous. The skeleton is the proper emblem of the first and supreme deity because it is the foundation of the body, as the absolute is the foundation of creation. The reaping skeleton physically signifies death, but philosophically that irresistible impulse in nature which causes every being to be ultimately absorbed into the divine condition in which it existed before the illusionary universe had been manifested. The blade of the scythe is the moon with its crystalline power. Interesting, cool. The field in which death reaps is the universe. And the card discloses that all things growing out of the earth shall be cut down and return to the earth again. It's like renewing. It's like, nope, okay, you've had your time of life, and then the energy's like recycled into the soup, I guess, yeah. Kings, queens, courtesans, and knaves are alike to death, the master of the visible and apparent parts of all creatures. In some tarot decks, death is symbolized as a figure in armor mounted on a white horse, which tramples underfoot old and young alike. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, a rainbow is seen behind the figure of death, thus signifying that the mortality of the body of itself achieves the immortality of the spirit. Death, though it destroys form, can never destroy life, which continually renews itself. This card, death, though it destroys form, can never destroy life, which continually renews itself. This card is the symbol of the constant renovation of the universe. Disintegration and reintegration may follow upon a higher level of expression. The 14th numbered major trump is called Temperance, and portrays an angelic figure with the sun upon her forehead. She carries two urns, one empty and the other full, and continually pours the contents of the upper into the lower. In some tarot decks, the flowing water takes the form of the symbol of Aquarius. Not one drop, however, of the living water is lost in this endless transference between the superior vessel and the inferior. When the lower urn is filled, the vases are reversed, thus signifying that life pours first from the invisible into the visible, then from the visible back into the invisible. The spirit controlling this flow is an emissary of the great Jehovah, demiurge of the world. The sun, S-U-N, or light cluster, upon the woman's forehead controls the flow of water, which being drawn upward into the air by the solar rays descends upon the earth as rain to draw up and fall again ad infinitum, to draw up and fall again. Herein is also shown the passage of the human life forces back and forth between positive and negative poles of the creative system. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the symbolism is the same, except that the winged figure is male instead of female. It is surrounded by a solar nimbus and pours water from a golden urn into a silver one, typifying the descent of celestial forces into the sublunary spheres. The 15th numbered major trump is called Le Diable, the devil, and portrays a creature resembling Pan, with the horns of a ram or deer, the arms and body of a man, and the legs and feet of a goat or dragon. The figure stands upon a cubic stone, to a ring in the front of which are chained 2 satyrs. For a scepter, this so-called demon carries a lighted torch or candle. The entire figure is symbolic of the magic powers of the astral light. Okay, so this is Manly P. Hall. Let me go back here. The 15th number major trump is called the devil, and portrays a creature resembling Pan, with the horns of a ram or deer, the arms and body of a man, and the legs and feet of a goat or dragon. The figure stands upon a cubic stone, to a ring in the front of which are chained 2 satyrs. For a scepter, the so-called demon carries a lighted torch or a candle as a scepter. The entire figure is symbolic of the magic powers of the astral light, or universal mirror, in which the divine forces are reflected in an inverted or infernal state. The demon is winged like a bat, showing that it pertains to the nocturnal or shadow inferior sphere. The animal natures of man, in the form of a male and a female elemental, are chained to its footstool. The torch is the false light, which guides unillumined souls to their own undoing. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot appears Typhon, a winged creature composed of a hog, a man, a bat, a crocodile, and a hippopotamus, standing in the midst of its own destructiveness and holding aloft the firebrand of the incendiary. Typhon is created by man's own misdeeds, which, turning upon their maker, destroy him. The 16th numbered major trump is called the Fire of Heaven, and portrays a tower. Hold on just a second, y'all. Get a little coffee. All right, y'all. Yeah, this one I'm doing on Facebook Live, and the other ones I've been doing on Instagram. But all right, so the 16th numbered major trump, which is the tower, is called the Fire of Heaven, the tower. The Fire of Heaven, the tower, the Fire of Heaven. So the 16th numbered major trump is called the Fire of Heaven, the tower, and portrays a tower, the battlements of which, in the form of a crown, are being destroyed by a bolt of lightning issuing from the sun. The crown, being considerably smaller than the tower which it surmounts, possibly indicates that its destruction resulted from its insufficiency. The lightning bolt sometimes takes the form of the zodiacal sign of Scorpio. The lightning bolt sometimes takes the form of the zodiacal sign of Scorpio, and the tower may be considered a phallic emblem. 2 figures are falling from the tower. Out in front, the 16th numbered major trump is called the Fire of Heaven, and portrays a tower, the battlements of which, in the form of a crown, are being destroyed by a bolt of lightning issuing from the sun. The crown, being considerably smaller than the tower which it surmounts, possibly indicates that its destruction results from its insufficiency. The lightning bolt sometimes takes the form of the zodiacal sign of Scorpio, and the tower may be considered a phallic emblem. Two figures are falling from the tower, one in front, the other behind. This tarot card is popularly associated with the traditional fall of man. The divine nature of humanity is depicted as a tower. When his crown is destroyed, man falls into the lower world and takes upon himself the illusion of materiality. Here also is a key to the mystery of sex. So, and this is Manly P. Hall. It's just cool reading through these classics, This is Manly P. Hall, Secret Teachings of All Ages, Here also is a key to the mystery of sex. The tower is supposedly filled with gold coins, which, showering out in great numbers from the rent made by the lightning bolt, suggest potential powers. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the tower is a pyramid, its apex shattered by a lightning bolt. Here is a reference to the missing capstone of the universal house, in support of Levy's contention that this card is connected with the Hebrew letter ayin. The falling figure in the foreground is similar in general appearance to the 16th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Okay. The 17th numbered. It's been a long time since I had read like the Secret Teachings of All Ages on this. This is one of those books that I read like when I was like 20 years old. And it was like my Bible back then. Like my book back then, the whole thing, like the whole book was underlined or highlighted. I don't highlight or underline books anymore. But when I was like 20, 21, this book, The Secret Teachings of All, is like this thing. I forgot how I even found out about it. But man, I read this book front to back. This was like my Bible when I was like 20, 21. But I haven't read this in a long time. His work on tarot. Like I haven't read this, in quite a while. So it's cool to work through this. And anyways, so Manly P. Hall. This is all Manly P. Hall, Manly Palmer Hall, Secret Teachings of All Ages on the Tarot. So, the 17th numbered major trump is called the Star and portrays a young girl kneeling with one foot in water and the other on her body, somewhat suggesting, I don't want to say that word. She has two urns, the contents of which she pours upon land and sea. Above the girl's head are 8 stars, one of which is exceptionally large and bright. Kortegeblin considers the great star to be Sothis or Sirius. The other 7 are the sacred planets of the ancients. So, Kortegeblin considered the great star to be Sothis or Sirius. The other 7 are the sacred planets of the ancients. He believes the female figure to be Isis in the act of causing the inundations of the Nile, which accompanied the rising of the dog star. The unclothed figure of Isis may well signify that nature does not receive her garment of verdure until the rising of the Nile waters releases the germinal life of plants and flowers. The Nile waters, or the flow of the bush and bird or butterfly signify the growth and resurrection which accompany the rising of the waters. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the great star contains a diamond composed of a black and white triangle, and the flowering bush is a tall plant with trifoliate head upon which a butterfly alights. Here Isis is in the form of an upright triangle, and the vases have become shallow cups. The elements of water and earth under her feet represent the opposites of nature, sharing impartially the divine abundance. So it's Isis and like the rising waters of the Nile. And the 18th numbered major trump is called the Moon and portrays Luna rising between 2 towers. One light, the other dark. A dog and a wolf are baying at the rising moon, and in the foreground is a pool of water from which emerges a crawfish. Between the towers a path winds, vanishing in the extreme background. Court de Gebelin sees in this card another reference to the rising of the Nile waters and states on the authority of Pausanias that the Egyptians believed the inundations of the Nile to result from the tears of the moon goddess, which, falling into the river, swelled its flow. These tears are seen dropping from the lunar face. Court de Gebelin also relates the towers to the pillars of Hercules, beyond which, according to the Egyptians, the luminaries never passed. He notes also that the Egyptians represented the tropics as dogs, who as faithful doorkeepers prevented the sun and moon from penetrating too near the poles. The crab or crawfish signifies the retrograde motion of the moon. And then up here it says the history of playing cards. It says here, among the more curious examples of playing cards are those of the Mantegna deck. In 1820, a perfect deck of cards. I'm not going to read all of that. Hell no. Continuing on, this card also refers to the path of wisdom. Man, in his quest of reality, emerges from the pool of illusion. After mastering the guardians of the gates of wisdom, he passes between the fortresses of science and theology and follows the winding path leading to spiritual liberation. His way is faintly lighted by human reason, the moon, which is but a reflection of divine wisdom. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the towers are pyramids, the dogs are black and white respectively, and the moon is partly obscured by clouds. The entire scene suggests the dreary and desolate place in which the mystery dramas of the lesser rites were enacted. Yeah. The 19th numbered major trump is called the Sun and portrays two children, probably Gemini, the twins, standing together in a garden surrounded by a magic ring of flowers. One of these children should be shown as male, and the other female. Behind them is a brick wall apparently enclosing the garden. Above the wall, the sun is rising, its rays alternately straight and curved. 13 teardrops are falling from the solar face. Levi, seeing in the two children faith and reason, which must coexist as long as the temporal universe endures, writes, human equilibrium requires 2 feet. Human equilibrium requires 2 feet. The worlds gravitate by means of 2 forces. And it's talking about the two children in the sun card, which are male and female. All right. Human equilibrium requires 2 feet. The worlds gravitate by means of 2 forces. Generation needs 2 sexes. Such is the meaning of the Arcanum of Solomon, represented by the 2 pillars of the temple, Jachin and Boaz. See Transcendental Magic. The sun, S-U-N, of truth is shining into the garden. Now we're switching back to the words of Manly P. Hall here. That's the end of the quote from Levi. The sun, S-U-N, the sun of truth, is shining into the garden of the world over which these 2 children, as personifications of eternal powers, reside. I want to read that again. That's just awesome. Okay. The sun, S-U-N, the sun of truth is shining into the garden of the world over which these 2 children, as personifications of eternal powers, reside. In duality. The harmony of the world depends upon the coordination of 2 qualities, symbolized throughout the ages as the mind and the heart. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the children give place to a youth and a maiden. Above them are the thinking mind and then the feeling mind, the heart and the mind, and I guess like having harmony within ourselves, or In the Pseudo-Egyptian, throughout the ages is the mind and the heart. In the Pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the children give place to a youth and a maiden. Above them is a solar nimbus and the phallic emblem of generation. Above them is a solar nimbus and the phallic emblem of generation, a line piercing a circle. Above them is a solar nimbus. Above them in a solar nimbus is the phallic emblem of generation, a line piercing a circle. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and the two children personify the serpents entwined around the caduceus. The 20th numbered major trump is called Judgment and portrays three figures rising apparently from their tombs, though but one coffin is visible. Above them is a blaze of glory. In a blaze of glory is a winged figure, presumably the angel Gabriel, blowing a trumpet, or Israfel. The tarot represents the liberation of man's threefold spiritual nature from the sepulcher of his material constitution. It's like, wake up. Okay, wake up, put on the keys, shake it. Okay. The 20th number major trump is called Judgment. Okay? You're like blowing the horn, people are waking up from their tomb. It's like awakening from death and enlightenment. So anyways, the 20th numbered major trump is called Judgment and portrays three figures rising apparently from their tombs, though but one coffin is visible. Wait, they were all in one coffin? The 20th, the 20th numbered major trump is called Judgment and portrays three figures rising apparently from their tombs. The three figures, though but one coffin is visible. Above them is in a blaze of glory is a winged figure, presumably the angel Gabriel, blowing a trumpet. This tarot represents the liberation of man's threefold spiritual nature from the sepulcher of his material constitution. Since but 1/3 of the spirit actually enters the physical body, the other 2/3 constitute the hermetic anthropos or overman. I want to read that again. That's awesome. Okay. This tarot represents the liberation of man's threefold spiritual nature from the sepulcher of his material constitution. Since but one third of the spirit actually enters the physical body, the other 2/3 constituting the hermetic anthropos or overman. Only one of the three figures is actually rising from the tomb. Court de Geblin believes that the coffin may have been an afterthought of the card makers and that the scene actually represents creation rather than resurrection. In philosophy, these two words are practically synonymous. The blast of the trumpet represents the creative word, by the intoning of which man is liberated from his terrestrial limitations. Oh wow, that's cool. The blast of the trumpet represents the creative word, by the intoning of which man is liberated from his terrestrial limitations. Like, you hear it and you're like woke up from, symbolically speaking, of course. The blast of the trumpet represents the creative word, or logos, by the intoning of which man is liberated from his terrestrial limitations. In the Pseudo-Egyptian tarot, it is evident that the three figures signify the parts of a single being, for the three mummies are shown emerging from one mummy case. Got a little mummy sandwich action going on. Alright, so, the 21st numbered major trump is called Le Monde, the world, or the universe, okay. So the 21st numbered major trump is called the universe, or the world, and portrays a female figure draped with a scarf which the wind blows into the form of the Hebrew letter Kaf. Her extended hands, each of which holds a wand, and her left leg, which crosses behind the right, cause the figure to assume the form of an alchemical symbol of sulfur. The central figure is surrounded by a wreath in the form of a vesica Pisces, which Levi likens to the Kabbalistic crown Keter. The cherubim of Ezekiel's vision occupy the corners of the card. This tarot is called the microcosm and the macrocosm, because in it are summed up every agency contributing to the structure of creation. Okay, this tarot is called the microcosm and the macrocosm because in this tarot, are summed up every agency contributing to the structure of creation. The figure in the form of the emblem of sulfur represents the divine fire in the heart of the great mystery, the wreath of nature, which surrounds the fiery center. The cherubim represent the elements, worlds, forces, and planes issuing out of the divine fiery center of life. The wreath signifies the crown of the initiate, which is given to those who master the four guardians and enter into the presence of unveiled truth. The wreath signifies the crown of the initiate, which is given to those who master the four guardians, enter into the presence of unveiled truth. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the cherubim surround a wreath composed of 12 trifoliate flowers, the decanates of the zodiac. A human figure kneels below this wreath, playing upon a harp of 3 strings, for the spirit must create harmony in the triple constitution of its inferior nature before it can gain for itself the solar crown of immortality. I want to read that again. That's cool. Hold on, that was cool. A human figure kneels below this wreath, playing a harp of 3 strings, for the spirit must create harmony in the triple constitution of its inferior nature. For the spirit must create harmony in the triple constitution of its inferior nature before it can gain for itself the solar crown of immortality. The 4 suits of the minor arcana are considered as analogous. Let me see how much more I gotta go. Hold on. Oh, okay. Hell yeah. The 4 suits of the minor trumps are considered as analogous to the 4 elements, the 4 corners of creation, and the 4 worlds of Kabbalism. The key of the lesser tarots is presumably the tetragrammaton. Now it's talking about the 4 suits of the minor arcana, so the 1s through 10s, the pip cards of, the 4 suits. Okay. The 4 suits of the minor trumps, they're not, that was weird he said that, minor trumps, it's, okay, whatever. The 4 suits of the minor trumps are considered as analogous to the 4 elements, the 4 corners of creation, and the 4 worlds of Kabbalism. The key to the lesser tarots, I hate the way that's said, is presumably the tetragrammaton, or the 4-lettered name of Jehovah, or Yahweh, Yod He Vav He. The 4 suits of the minor trumps, minor trump, I don't like that word, I'm sorry. I like Manly Pete. See, I love Manly Pete. I love listening to his lectures. It's just little things like this. Okay, the four suits of the minor trumps represent also the major divisions of society. Cups are the priesthood. Okay. Swords, the military. Yeah. Coins, the tradesmen. And rods, the farming class. From the standpoint of what Court de Geblin calls political geography, cups represent the northern countries, swords the Orient, coins the Occident, and rods the southern countries. The 10 pip cards of each from where? From what vantage, point. Anyways, the 10 pip cards of each suit represent the nations composing each of these grand divisions. The kings are their governments, the queens their religions, the knights their histories and national characteristics, and the pages their arts and sciences. Elaborate treatises have been written concerning the use of the tarot cards in divination, But as this practice is contrary to the primary purpose of the tarot, no profit can result from its discussion. Well, damn. I guess he's a little anti. He's one of those, in this book, Manly P. Halls, he's like, you don't read the cards for divination. Don't tell me what to do, Manly P. Hall. All right. I'm kidding, y'all. I'm kidding. You have to learn my sense of humor. There we go. All right. Okay. All right. Many interesting examples of early playing cards are found in the museums of Europe, and there are also noteworthy specimens in the cabinets of various private collectors. A few hand-painted decks exist, which are extremely artistic. These depict various important personages contemporary with the artists. In some instances, the court cards are portraitures of the reigning monarch and his family. In England, engraved cards became popular, and in the British Museum are also to be seen some extremely quaint stenciled cards. Heraldic devices were employed. In Chatto, in his Origin and History of Playing Cards, reproduces 4 heraldic cards in which the arms of Pope Clement IX adorn the King of Clubs. There have been philosophical decks with emblems chosen from Greek and Roman mythology, also educational decks, ornamented with maps or pictorial representations of famous historic places and incidents. Many rare examples of playing cards have been found bound into the covers of early books. In Japan, there are card games, the successful playing of which requires familiarity with nearly all the literary masterpieces of that nation. In India, there are circular decks depicting episodes from Oriental myths. There are also cards which in one sense of the word are not cards, for the designs are on wood, ivory, and even metal. There are comic cards caricaturing disliked persons and places, and there are cards commemorating various human achievements. During the American Civil War, a patriotic deck was circulated in which stars, eagles, anchors, and American flags were substituted for the suits and the court cards of famous generals. Modern playing cards are the minor trumps of the tarot, from each suit of which the page or valet has been eliminated. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Alright, so what do y'all think about this reading, y'all? So, modern playing cards are the minor trumps of the tarot. And again, we're reading Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages. Modern playing cards are the minor trumps of the tarot, from each suit of which the page or valet has been eliminated, leaving 13 cards, each in its abridged form. However, the modern deck is of profound symbolic importance, for its arrangement is apparently in accord with the divisions of the year. The 2 colors, red and black, represent the 2 grand divisions of the year, that during which the sun is north of the equator, and that which it is south of the equator. The 4 suits represent the seasons, the ages of the ancient Greeks, and the yugas of the Hindus. The 12 court cards are the signs of the zodiac, arranged in triads of a father, a power, and a mind according to the upper section of the Bimbing table. The 10 pip cards of each suit represent the Sephirotic trees existing in each of the 4 worlds, the suits. The 13 cards of each suit are the 13 lunar months in each year, and the 52 cards of the deck are the 52 weeks in the year. Counting the number of pips, and oh, that's a cool idea, like in regular playing card packs, like there are 52 cards, 52 weeks in a year. That's a cool concept. The 13 cards of each suit are it's talking about playing cards. The 13 cards of each suit, so the 10 pip cards, the 3 court cards, are the 13 lunar months in each year. And the 52 cards of the deck are the 52 weeks in the year. Counting the number of pips and reckoning the jacks, queens, and kings as 11, 12, and 13 respectively, the sum for the 52 cards is 364. That's 1 day less than 365. If the joker be considered as 1 point, the result is 365, or the number of days in the year. Milton Pottinger believed that the United States of America was laid out according to the conventional deck of playing cards, and that the government will ultimately consist of 52 states administered by a 53rd undenominated division, the District of Columbia. The court cards contain a number of important Masonic symbols. The court cards contain a number of important Masonic symbols. 9 are full face and 3 are profile. Here is the broken wheel of the law, typifying the 9 months of the prenatal epoch and the 3 degrees of spiritual unfoldment necessary to produce the perfect man. The 4-armed kings are the Egyptian Ammonian architects who gouged out the universe with knives. They are also the cardinal signs of the zodiac. The 4 queens carrying the 8-petaled flowers symbolic of the Christ. The 4 queens carrying the 8-petaled flowers symbolic of the Christ and the fixed signs of the zodiac. The 4 jacks, 2 of whom bear acacia sprigs, the jack of hearts in his hand, the jack of clubs in his hat, are the 4 common signs of the zodiac. It should be noted also that the court cards of the spade suit will not look upon the pip of the corner of the card, but face away from it as though fearing the emblem of death. The Grand Master of the Order of the Cards is the King of Clubs, who carries the orb as emblematic of his dignity. In its symbolism, so the Grand Master of the Order of the Cards is the King of Clubs, who carries the orb as emblematic of his dignity. What does that mean? The Grand Master of the Order of the Cards is the King of Clubs, who carries the orb as emblematic of his dignity. In its symbolism, chess is the most significant of all games. It has been called the royal game, the pastime of kings. Like the tarot cards, the chessmen represent the elements of life and philosophy. The game was played in India and China long before its introduction into Europe. East Indian princes were wont to sit in the balconies of their palaces and play chess with living men standing upon a checkerboard pavement of black and white marble in the courtyard below. It is popularly believed that the Egyptian pharaohs played chess, but an examination of their sculpture and illuminations has led to the conclusions that the Egyptian game was a form of draughts. In China, chessmen are often carved to represent warring dynasties, as the Manchu and the Ming. The chessboard consists of 64 squares, alternately black and white, so black and white checkerboard, and symbolizes the floor of the House of the Mysteries. Upon this field of existence or thought move a number of strangely carved figures, each according to fixed law. The white king is Ormuzd, the black king Ahriman, and upon the plains of Cosmos the great war between light and darkness is fought through all the ages. Of the philosophical constitution of man, the kings represent the spirit, the queens the mind, the bishops the emotions, the knights the vitality, the castles or rooks the physical body. The pieces upon the king's side are positive, those upon the queen's side negative. The pawns are the sensory impulses and perceptive faculties, the 8 parts of the soul. The white king and his suite symbolize the self and its vehicles. The black king and his retinue, the not-self, the false ego and its legion. The game of chess thus sets forth the eternal struggle of each part of man's compound nature against the shadow of itself. The nature of each of the chessmen is revealed by the way in which it moves. Geometry is the key to their interpretation. For example, the castle, the body, moves on the square. The bishop, the emotions, moves on the slant. The king, being the spirit, cannot be captured, but loses the battle when so surrounded that it cannot escape. Cool. And then next, the tabernacle in the wilderness. You know, this is pretty cool. I'm actually pretty excited about working through this. But I'm really glad that I pumped those out. You know, there's more stuff that I want to go through. For example, really, I want to continue with these Manly P. Hall, and then also, I wanted to go through like the old like Rosicrucian manifestos, like from the 1600s, and we're gonna work through all this stuff. It's gonna be great. And also, Manly P. Hall, Agrippa. We're gonna be working through Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy. Also, later on, Shem Angel, we got it going on. Y'all, we got Shem Angels going on. It's going to be excellent. Very exciting developments. We got the Shem Angel, y'all. So I will see y'all in the next video. And that was just a little bit of our morning readings and looking at the tarot. So I will see y'all in the next video. Thanks for watching, y'all.